The alarm screamed through Metro West Jail at 2:17 a.m. Red lights flashed down the long concrete hallway. Doors slammed shut one by one. In Pod D, an inmate lay still on the floor, his orange uniform dark with blood. Other men backed away, shouting for help. A camera above them blinked, frozen on the last few seconds before everything went wrong. Officers ran in late, way too late. This was the night that would force the nation to look inside Florida's most dangerous detention center. And no one yet knew how many lives would be changed before the sun came up. Earlier that same day, Metro West looked like it always did. A massive gray building sitting heavy in Miami-Dade County, holding thousands of people who were waiting for court, waiting for answers, waiting to go home. Some were accused of small crimes. Others faced serious charges. All of them lived under the same roof, behind the same steel doors. Metro West was one of the largest jails in Florida. It was also one of the most crowded. Cells meant for 2 men held 4. Mattresses were placed on the floor. Tempers stayed hot in the Miami heat, and patients ran out fast. James Carter arrived that morning in handcuffs. He was 27 years old, thin and quiet. He had been arrested for a nonviolent charge and expected to be released soon. James had never been to jail before. When the intake officer asked if he had any gang ties, James shook his head no. His voice was soft. The officer barely looked up as he stamped the papers that on the other side of the jail, Officer Mike Reynolds began his shift. He had worked at Metro West for 6 years. He was tired. Many officers were. Staffing was low and overtime was high. Some officers cared deeply. Others had grown cold. Rumors of misconduct floated through the halls, but most days, everyone just tried to survive the shift. James was placed in Pod D. It was loud and tense. Men watched him as he walked in. He kept his eyes down. A man named Carlos nodded at him and pointed to an empty spot on a bench. Carlos had been inside for months. He knew the rules. Don't stare. Don't ask questions. And never trust that help will come fast. The day dragged on. Lunch was late. Dinner was cold. An argument broke out over a phone call. Officers shouted orders. The argument ended, but the anger stayed. James felt it in the air like a storm waiting to break. The day as night fell, the pod grew darker and quieter. Officers were fewer now. Cameras watched, but everyone knew cameras didn't always save you. James lay on his bunk, thinking of his mother. He promised himself he would keep his head down and make it through. Around midnight, whispers spread. 2 rival groups had words earlier. A guard had ignored it. Not my problem, someone heard him say. The door stayed closed. The light stayed dim. 12 a.m. A sudden shout cut through the silence. Feet moved fast. Too fast. James stood up confused as bodies rushed past him. Someone slipped. Someone screamed. Fists flew. The sound of metal hitting metal echoed as a makeshift weapon struck the floor. The camera above Pod D kept recording. 0.5 minutes later, the alarm screamed by the time officers arrived and pulled inmates apart. One man was not moving. James Carter was on the ground, gasping, then still. An officer called for medical help. Another shouted for backup. The pod went silent, every man staring at the floor. Today as the jail went into full lockdown and investigators were called. A single question hung in the air, heavy and terrifying. How did this happen again? Inside a jail, already under warning. And this was only the beginning. James Carter lay on the cold floor as officers pushed inmates back into their cells. The red lights still flashed. One officer pressed a radio to his shoulder, his voice shaking as he called for medical staff. Another officer stood over James, unsure what to do next. Blood pooled beneath James's head. The camera above them kept blinking, silent and watching. Paramedics arrived minutes later, but minutes in jail can feel like hours. They checked James's pulse. One of them shook his head. A sheet was pulled over James's face. Word spread fast through Metro West. An inmate was dead. By sunrise, the jail was locked down. No movement. No phone calls. No visits. Inmates banged on doors, demanding answers. Officers walked the halls in pairs, tense and quiet. Outside the jail, James's mother, Linda Carter, received a call that would change her life forever. They told her son had died in custody. They gave no details. Inside Metro West, supervisors rushed to protect themselves. Reports were written carefully. Times were adjusted. Some officers said they responded as fast as they could. Others said they never heard the first warning. The camera footage was pulled and locked away. Rumors started moving faster than facts. Officer Mike Reynolds sat in the break room, staring at his hands. He had been assigned to another pod that night, but he knew Pod D was dangerous. Everyone did. He remembered asking for more staff weeks ago. Nothing changed. It never did. An internal investigation began, but inmates did not trust it. They had seen this before. Over the years, Metro West had faced many allegations. Inmates claimed officers ignored threats. Some said guards watched fights and did nothing. Others said certain inmates were protected while others were targeted. A few days later, federal investigators arrived. That got attention. Men in suits walked the halls, asking questions. Officers stiffened. Inmates whispered through vents and under doors. Someone somewhere was finally listening. Carlos, the inmate who had helped James on his first day, agreed to talk. He told investigators about the warning signs. He said he told an officer about rising tension in Pod D. He said the officer laughed and walked away. His voice shook as he spoke. James didn't have enemies, Carlos said. He didn't belong in that fight. Life inside the jail slowly returned to a new kind of normal. Lockdown ended. Meals resumed. But something felt different. Eyes followed officers. Officers watched inmates more closely. Fear sat on both sides of the bars. Overcrowding made everything worse. New inmates kept coming. Beds ran out again. Tempers flared again. A young officer quit mid-shift, unable to handle the pressure. Another officer worked 16 hours straight, exhausted and angry. Linda Carter stood outside the jail during a small protest. She held a photo of James smiling. He was supposed to come home, she said to a reporter. Her words spread across local news. Soon, the nation began to notice Metro West. But inside the jail, danger did not wait for cameras. One evening, during dinner, an argument broke out in another pod. It started over food. A tray was thrown. An officer shouted. Inmates crowded closer. Someone pulled a sharp object made from metal. Panic spread. This time, officers rushed in fast. Too fast. Batons swung. Pepper spray filled the air. Inmates screamed and covered their faces. One man fell, coughing and choking. Another hit his head on the concrete. Then, suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the pod. An officer went down, clutching his leg, blood seeping through his uniform. The room froze. And in that moment, Metro West Jail teetered on the edge of something even worse. The officer's scream cut through the pod. Blood ran down his leg as other officers dragged him back, shouting for help. Inmates pressed against the walls, hands up, afraid to move. Sirens wailed again. Metro West went into full lockdown for the second time in 1 week. An ambulance rushed the injured officer to the hospital. He survived, but the damage was serious. This incident could not be hidden. Not anymore. News trucks lined up outside the jail gates. Helicopters circled above. Metro West Jail was now under a harsh spotlight. Federal investigators returned in force. This time, they didn't just ask questions. They demanded records, shift schedules, staffing logs, camera footage. What they found was troubling. On many nights, entire pods were watched by too few officers. Reports showed repeated warnings about gang tension that were ignored. Some cameras had blind spots. Others were broken and never fixed. Officer Mike Reynolds was called in to speak again. He told the truth this time. He said officers were burned out. He said some guards stopped caring because nothing ever changed. It's not safe for inmates, he said quietly. And it's not safe for us. Inside the jail, fear turned into anger. Inmates talked about James Carter and the others who had been hurt over the years. They talked about guards who looked away. They talked about how easy it was to die inside Metro West and how hard it was to get justice. Carlos kept his head down, but he watched everything. He saw officers treating inmates rougher now, nervous and jumpy. He saw inmates pushing limits, testing power. The jail felt like a dry field waiting for a match. Outside, Linda Carter filed a wrongful death lawsuit. She wanted answers. She wanted change. Her story spread across the country. People asked how a young man arrested for a small charge could end up dead in one of America's largest jails. Under pressure, county leaders made announcements. They promised more staff, better training, repairs to cameras. They said Metro West would be safer. But promises did not erase fear overnight. Then, one late night, the power flickered. Lights went out in part of the jail. Backup generators kicked in, but not everywhere. In one pod, doors stayed unlocked longer than they should have. Shadows filled the room. Voices rose. Someone yelled, "Now!" A fight exploded. Inmates rushed at each other in the dark. Officers ran toward the noise, slipping on the floor. Radios crackled with panic. Pepper spray sprayed blindly. Someone fell and didn't get back up. When the lights came back on, chaos filled the pod. 2 inmates were badly injured. One was unconscious. Officers stood shaking, realizing how close they had come to another death. This time, investigators saw everything. The cameras had caught it all. Within weeks, the federal government stepped in. Metro West Jail was placed under strict oversight. New rules were forced into place. Staff numbers increased. Problem officers were suspended or fired. Some were charged in court. It was not a miracle fix. Violence did not disappear. But something had shifted. People were watching now. Carlos was transferred to another facility months later. Before he left, he stood quietly by the spot where James had fallen. He whispered a short prayer and walked away. Officer Mike Reynolds took medical leave. He wasn't sure if he would return. "This place changes you," he told a friend. "Sometimes not in good ways." Linda Carter stood outside the courthouse when the first settlement was announced. It did not bring James back, but it made one thing clear. What happened inside Metro West could no longer be buried behind concrete walls. Metro West Jail still stands in Miami-Dade County. Still crowded, still dangerous. But its darkest nights forced a truth into the light. And the question remains for every jail in America. How many warnings does it take before change finally comes?